Hello and welcome back to another video. Today, I will be discussing the totally misunderstood topic of spiritual psychosis. And in part, I will be responding to this video by a channel called Film Cooper. Now, to their credit, in this video, Cooper makes a number of excellent points about scam artists, spiritual egotism, and makes some maybe misinformed takes on God spousing and pop culture deities. And while these are all topics worthy of discussion, none of them are spiritual psychosis. This is spiritual psychosis.
A Los Angeles influencer who allegedly killed her boyfriend and daughter is at the center of a murder investigation, and police say the recent solar eclipse may have played a role in the tragedy. Danielle Johnson, who offered online self-help and healing sessions under the name Danielle Aoka, allegedly killed her partner in their Los Angeles home before pushing her two children out of a moving vehicle hours before the April 8th astrological event, the LAPD says in a press release. Law enforcement sources tell the Los Angeles Times that investigators believe the eclipse may have been a factor in their tragic deaths. In the early morning hours of April 8th, Danielle and her boyfriend, Jalen Allen Chaney, became involved in a physical altercation at their home in Woodland Hills, California, that ended with the mom of two fatally stabbing Jalen, according to LAPD. Police tell the Times that evidence suggests the 34-year-old tried to drag her boyfriend's body out of the complex, leaving a trail of bloody footprints behind her. However, Danielle, who described herself as a Reiki master teacher as well as an R&B artist, then brought the body back into the family's kitchen, where it was later found by a neighbor. Taking her two daughters, one 9 years old and the other 8 months old, Danielle then allegedly fled the scene in her Porsche, eventually throwing her older daughter, who was holding her baby sister in her arms, out of the car, while driving more than 100 miles per hour, police say. While the infant sadly died, the 9-year-old survived the fall and was transported to the hospital for minor injuries. Less than an hour later, local Redondo Beach police responded to reports that Danielle's speeding car had crashed into a tree, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. Days prior to the tragic events unfolding, the astrology influencer spoke out about the impending eclipse on social media, something that investigators tell the Times may be connected to the alleged killings. Writing in a series of posts to her 100,000 followers on X last week, "This eclipse is the epitome of spiritual warfare. Wake up, the apocalypse is here. Everyone who has ears, listen. Your time to choose what you believe is now."
Spiritual psychosis is not some new phenomenon that appeared in the 2020s. It is as old as civilization itself, and it is around us all the time. It's so common, in fact, that many of us probably just tune it out. I think the primary mistake that Cooper makes in his video is that he seems to have gathered the majority of his information from TikTok. And TikTok is just not a place to go for serious information about spirituality or occultism. And spirituality and occultism are serious topics. Remember, these are the same people that tried to hex the moon. There are many trends that you will find on the witchy side of TikTok that you will simply never see in the more grown-up spiritual and occult communities. And I'm not saying this to disparage anyone. I'm just telling you how it is. TikTok, by its very nature, is performative. It is a place where you can upload short clips that are designed to get as much attention as possible. And so by that design, there is an incentive to be highly performative, which is also often disingenuous. Also remember that TikTok is full of young people, many of whom are at the very beginning of their spiritual journey. And there's nothing wrong with that. But TikTok is performative. And maybe someone will reply to this video saying, "This isn't a performance, this is my real life." Okay. That's a performance. TikTok is performative, and everyone knows it. It's not a secret. So I'd like to address each of the topics that Cooper brings up in his video and discuss why they are not spiritual psychosis. And then we'll talk about what spiritual psychosis really is. Let's start with pop culture deities. Now, worshiping or working with a fictional deity is nothing new. This is a well-established facet of chaos magic. Of course, chaos magic is the branch of metaphysics in which I am deeply involved. Chaos magicians understand the power of the mind. Chaos magicians do not actually believe that Sonic the Hedgehog is out there in the ether somewhere talking to them. They are connecting to a symbol which connects them to a feeling, an archetype, a part of the self that they wish to access in order to generate desired effects. Let's say you want to connect to the archetype of the hero. You could do this by working with Hercules, one of the demigods of the Greek pantheon. Or you could work with Goku, or Superman, or Optimus Prime. It doesn't really matter. They're all symbols of the archetype of the hero. And understanding archetypes is the bridge between psychology and spirituality. Now, not every chaos magician is going to take the time to explain this, especially not when they're just doing their thing or throwing up a TikTok video, because again, TikTok is performative. It's not a place for education. So, pop culture deities, not spiritual psychosis, chaos magic. Okay, next, let's talk about god spousing. God spousing is a practice that spans traditions and time. In fact, even today, nuns are referred to as brides of Christ. It is a symbolic act of devotion to one's religious beliefs. It might look a little silly when a chaos magician working with a fictional deity is engaged in god spousing, but it only looks silly to someone without the underlying understanding of how this all works. Now, you may come across a TikTok of someone saying, "Oh, I'm married to Loki," and Loki says that you're a bitch. Don't take that seriously. Listen, if you take that seriously, you're the person with psychosis. Now, if a person truly believes to their core that they are married to Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic the Hedgehog says that Susan is a bitch, that person may be suffering from something akin to spiritual psychosis. But again, TikTok is performative. It's so important to remember that. Don't take it seriously. God spousing in reality is a very serious devotional act that has very, very real emotional implications for the person engaging in it. Does the internet sometimes take this to a sort of silly extreme? Maybe you've heard of Snape wives. Sure. But that's, again, it's not spiritual psychosis. It's fantasy role play and maybe a form of cognitive self-behavioral therapy or self-soothing, but not spiritual psychosis. All right. And finally, let's talk about scam artists. Again, do not go to TikTok for serious spiritual advice. What you're going to find are tarot readers and astrologers saying, "I can get you your ex back if you type 555 in the comments and book a full reading with me for whatever amount of money." Come on. That's a scam. That's a scam artist. Real readers don't do that. Real astrologers, real tarot readers, we don't post shit like that. Never have, never will. That's just a scam artist. And scams are nothing new. And they're also not spiritual psychosis. Scam artists are not suffering from spiritual psychosis. They're suffering from a lack of morals. And the people that they're preying upon are vulnerable people. And vulnerable people are everywhere. And sometimes they fall for things like this. It happens to everyone. But it's not spiritual psychosis. Okay, so let's talk about what spiritual psychosis really is. And we can do this by examining the most well documented form of spiritual psychosis, Jerusalem syndrome. Jerusalem syndrome is a well documented phenomena in which a person visiting Jerusalem becomes suddenly overwhelmed by a religious delusion. They feel that they have been called to some sort of mystic or religious quest, and oftentimes believe that they are, in fact, the reincarnation of Jesus Christ or one of the apostles or some other religious figure. Symptoms of Jerusalem syndrome, and I'm not joking, include wearing your hotel bed sheets as a toga and giving religious sermons in the streets. In most cases of Jerusalem syndrome, the symptoms completely go away once the person leaves the city. Jerusalem syndrome is so common that the hotel managers and tour guides all are aware of what to look for and will direct you to get help if they feel that you're suffering from Jerusalem syndrome. Spiritual psychosis is very real, and it can be very dangerous, as we saw in the first clip. Spiritual psychosis happens when a person becomes completely overwhelmed by a mythological or religious delusion. They believe that they are at the center of some war between good and evil, or that they are the embodiment of some religious figure. Practitioners of magic, occultism, and independent spirituality especially need to stay grounded and safeguard themselves against spiritual psychosis because it can happen to anyone. The human psyche is very fragile, and the occult tends to tinker with the human psyche. If you feel that you may be getting caught up in some sort of spiritual or religious delusion, seek help right away. Because as we've seen, spiritual psychosis can lead to serious harm and even death. It's not funny. It's not something to be made light of. Spiritual TikTok is funny and something to be made light of. But spiritual psychosis is not. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. Go forth, create chaos, have fun, stay grounded, and I will catch you in the next one.